We have a crisis in the world, tremendous crisis, and also crisis in our consciousness, in us. I see the urgency of change, radical revolution, mutation in the mind. I see it. It is necessary. There is complete quietness of the mind, and that which is silent has vast space. Only then that which is nameless comes into being.
This is Urgency of Change, the Krishnamurti Podcast. In the process of attachment, there is pain. To avoid that pain, we try to cultivate detachment, and so we keep up this circle, which is always painful. Hello and welcome to episode 299 of Urgency of Change. The Krishnamurti Podcast features carefully selected extracts from Krishnamurti's recorded talks. Each episode highlights his different approaches to universal and timeless subjects that affect our everyday lives, the state of the world, and the future of humanity. This episode's theme is detachment. Upcoming themes are harmony, plus many more in Season 8. This is a podcast from Krishnamurti Foundation Trust based at Brockwood Park in UK, which is also home to the Krishnamurti Centre. The centre offers a variety of group retreats, including for young adults. There is also a volunteer programme. The atmosphere of the centre is one of openness and friendliness, with a sense of freedom to inquire with others and alone. Please visit krishnamurticentre.org.uk for more information. You can also find our regular Krishnamurti quotes and videos on Instagram, TikTok and Facebook at Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. Lastly, if you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review or rating on your podcast app. This episode on detachment has 3 sections. This first extract is from Krishnamurti's 5th talk in Saanen 1982 and is titled Detachment Is Just an Idea.
Now we're going to look at a problem which most of us have. The problem of dying. It's not the question of old people like myself. It's the problem of everyone. They're poor, rich, powerful, and so on. Together, we're going to look at it. Look at it. Not asking for explanations. We'll do that presently later. But to look at this question, which has troubled mankind from the time immemorial. Said death, the dying. Not what happens after the death, not inquire what is more important, which is what is before death, the whole long period of years before dying, but just to observe the thing called ending. Right? Ending. Death is the ending. Now, what does it mean to end? Please, this is really important to go into it. To end something. Let us take, for example, attachment. Most of us are attached to a house, to a belief, to a faith, to some ideal, to some pattern of existence, or to a person, attached, which means clinging to that, holding to a person and so on. The consequences of that attachment are fear, anxiety, the pleasure of holding the person or the idea and fighting for that idea, which is another form of pleasure, following somebody, saying he's my guru, my etc., and holding on to him. Or in attachment, there is fear, anxiety, some pleasure, and the desire to continue in that attachment, never ending it. We all know this, so it's common for most of human beings. Now, what does it mean to end attachment? Because we see the consequences of it. And also we see the cause of it. I'm attached to you as an audience because I derive from that a great sense of satisfaction, a great sense of fulfillment, which is, I don't, but suppose I do, a sense of achievement, fame and so on, all that nonsense. We're not talking about detachment. Detachment is the opposite of attachment. When I pursue a detachment, I'm really pursuing attachment. Are you clear on this? Please see the truth of this. I am detached, attached, and it brings me great pain. And out of that pain, I say, for God's sake, if I could be detached from all this, which is the response of pain, which has projected an idea of detachment, and I'm pursuing detachment. Clear? So we are not talking about detachment. We're only talking about the fact of attachment. Detachment is just an idea away from attachment. So, we are talking about ending. Without the cultivation of detachment. Right? Is this so? Is it possible to end altogether attachment? Which means being aware of all the implications of attachment. Right? And end it. The ending is not a process of time. Right? Most of us say, I'm attached, yes, I'll gradually move away from it. It'll take time because I can't let go because there are various reasons and all the rest of it. So, it's a partly lack of clear observation, partly laziness, and the habit of being attached. When one is aware of the whole movement of attachment, it's obvious. When one is deeply aware of this fact of attachment to a community, to a commune, to a group, the whole of it. to end it. Because you see, the truth of attachment and the perception of truth is not of time. Right? I wonder if you see this. Is this clear somewhat? That perceiving that which is false, which is illusory, and that which is true, doesn't take time. Doesn't say, I must think it over, I must analyze it, I must talk to my friends about it, I cultivate a sense of silence to observe. So, perception, seeing the truth is not of time. You understand, that's a discovery. Because for most of us, our tradition says, take time. Practice. Practice detachment. You may not be free of it today, work at it. Which are all so absurd. It's another form of struggle, pain and anxiety. So to see the fact, the truth, is instantaneous. If you are aware of the whole thing. But most of us partially asleep. Because we have been drugged by tradition, by what other people have said. If you can put aside all that and look, and see the whole implication of attachment to end it. The ending is not that there is a future. You understand it? I may end attachment because I have pain in that attachment, therefore I want to end it. Which has a cause. Right? Please understand. That which has a cause can end. Love has no cause. Therefore it is limitless. So, we are asking, as death is the ending, both by physiologically and all the things that was psychologically accumulated. That's the ending. But thought says that isn't good enough. What's the future? I have accumulated so much knowledge. I've been virtuous, struggled. What's the reward for all that? Your mind, brain is accustomed to reward and punishment. The reward is the future comfort, future security, a continuity of that which has been. And if there is nothing after death, life has no meaning. Right? I'll go on struggle, I've done that all my life. It's part of my life, part of life. But if we understand the nature of conflict and end it, so what is it that continues? You understand? What is it that has given us this sense of continuity? Physiologically, one has continued from the moment you are born till you die. There is a continuity. It is measurable by age, by time, physically. Apart from that, what is continuity? The things that have accumulated, the furniture, the knowledge, the experience, the vast suffering, so one is there a sense of no measurement. Continuity means measurement, right? Are you following this? Anything that continues can be measured. Not by measurement, a tape, but the psychological comparison. I have been this and I'm going to be that. That's a form of continuity. Right? Which is measurement. Can I look at continuity without measurement? Or is it possible for the brain not to measure? Measurement was born out of Greece, right? Out of ancient Greece, measurement was put together. And the Western world and the Eastern world has followed this pattern. Without measurement, there is no technology. Right? So, our conditioning is to measure. The better, the more. Now, is there an observation without measurement? So this is a rather complex question. You can't just agree or disagree. Because all our life is based on measurement. You're tall, I'm short. You're clever, I'm not. You're beautiful, I'm not. You're a great success, I'm a failure. It's always in the realm of comparison, which is measurement. What does it mean to live without measurement? You're asking this question. I hope you are. To have no measure, which means no comparison. Is love measurement? Yes, please go into this. I love you, tomorrow I won't love you. To live a life, if it's at all possible, one has to go into, find out. To live a life without a cause, which is time. To live a life without measurement. To live a life without the burden, which is accumulated in that word, the better, the more. Is at all possible? Or life must always continue in measurement, in cause. Therefore, always within the limitation of time and knowledge.
The second extract is from the first talk in Bangalore 1971 and is titled The Pursuit of Detachment.
All idealists are essentially hypocrites. Right? Swallow that pill and observe it. So we are not dealing with the ideal of courage, or how to get rid of fear, or how to suppress it, but to understand it. You understand? The moment you understand something, you are free of it. And freedom does not come through ideals. Freedom and the beauty of freedom comes when you understand actually what is. When you really understand your own confusion, your own callousness, your own brutality. Out of that observation, out of that awareness with care, with real attention, then out of that comes the beauty of freedom. So what we are going to do is to observe and learn. Now, observe your own fear. You may not now, sitting here in this hall, be aware of your fear. You're only aware when it comes. So, perhaps we can take a thing like attachment. You are all attached to your family, to your jobs, to your opinions, to your conclusions, to what you think you are attached. Aren't you? Now, watch what you are attached to. Maybe your wife, maybe your children, maybe the things that you have invented as gods, or to karma, reincarnation, God knows what else. Just observe. You are attached. Now when you are attached to something, in that there is the desire to dominate, to hold, to possess. Either the wife, the husband, the children, or an opinion or a judgment. To dominate, to hold. When you dominate and hold, what takes place in your mind? There is always the uncertainty of its impermanence. Right? Are you following this? So where there is attachment, there must be the uncertainty that the attachment may die, or the person to which you are attached may turn to another, and out of that jealousy. And so where there is attachment, there must be fear. Right? And being attached, you say, I must get detached. And you pursue detachment. Then you ask yourself, how am I to be detached? Then that becomes a problem. Then they will tell you, do this, don't do that, meditate, practice, gradually get detached yourself. Become a monk, become a saint, become an unholy idiot. Whereas if you understood, observe the implications of attachment, you would see that there is fear, and instead of understanding fear, you cultivate detachment. You're following? Which is most deadly. Because when you cultivate detachment, what takes place? You become callous. You become indifferent. You withdraw. You resist. You never look at the beauty of a tree or the sky or the lovely sunset, because all that means attachment. So you are, by your philosophy, by your detachment, you have created a monstrous India. You have become a terribly ugly human beings. Therefore, find out where there is detachment, there must be fear. Now, we're going to understand what fear is. Understand. Non-verbally, which means you have to look at your fear yourself, learn about it. So there is fear. What is fear? The fact, not the cause of fear. What is fear? One is afraid of death. Let's take that as an instance. We are not discussing what death is, whether there is reincarnation or not. We are not discussing that. The fear of death. What is that fear? Of suddenly coming to an end. Suddenly getting detached from your moorings. Suddenly getting detached from your family, from all your knowledge, from your position, prestige, from your beastly little house and cars. There is that fear, right? That is death, fear. What causes fear? What is the process of fear? Please investigate with the speaker. What is the way of fear? You have had physical pain week ago or last year. You think about that pain, don't you? Hoping that it won't come back again, right? Thinking about a past event which has caused physical pain results in not wanting it now or tomorrow. You're following all this? Therefore, thinking about something which is painful, is afraid that it might occur again. Right? So thought is responsible for the continuity of fear. Do you see this? I have done something wrong. It happened, let us say, yesterday or 2 weeks ago. And I'm afraid that you shouldn't know it. I don't want you to know it. And I am afraid that you might get to know it. So thinking about something which I have done, which has been done, which it doesn't want it to be discovered, so hides and is afraid that it might be. You understand, there is the physical incident of pain, and there is the psychological happening which mustn't be revealed, mustn't be shown, mustn't occur again. And so thinking about the pain, thinking about what has happened, gives a continuity to fear. Is that clear? No, please watch it in yourself. Not how to end fear, but what gives continuity to fear. Now, I have had pain last week. It's over. It's finished. But my mind thinks about it. Once is afraid. See, if thought doesn't interfere, it can end immediately. It's over. You're following? What happened, pain 2 weeks ago, is over. But the brain, please listen to all this. The brain has recorded that pain. The brain is the recording machine. And that memory, which is part of the structure of the brain, thinking about it, is afraid that it might happen again. Now, the speaker has not read any books, religious, psychological, biological, or any book. You understand? The speaker is saying this not out of vanity, but to show you that you can learn all about yourself completely without a book. Because in you is the totality of man. In you is all history buried, not the dates of kings and of wars, but the whole historical movement of growth. So when we are talking of the brain, it is not the result of instructions by a professor of nerves of the brain cells. You can observe it yourself. And therefore it is authentic, real. And then there lies great beauty and independence, freedom. So thought, which is the response of memory of an incident, physical or psychological, is recorded in the brain cells. The brain cells hold this memory. And therefore the brain cells say, don't be careful, don't have pain anymore. Be careful, watch. Thought doesn't want it, and therefore thought breeds fear. Now, what is pleasure? Please do understand this thing. It is really extraordinarily simple when once you understand it. The very simplicity of it to a complicated intellectual mind, the very simplicity of it goes by. He wants a complicated thing. And this is a very simple matter. What is pleasure? You see a beautiful tree or a lovely sunset with marvelous colors. You see on that pond the light of an evening or the morning, the beauty of it, the stillness of it, the extraordinary depth of light and shade. It happens, you are there. And you see it, and you say, how marvelous that is. If you have time and if you have looked, which I doubt very much, you have. Then if you have, again, the brain cells have recorded it. And the thought says, I wish I could have that experience again tomorrow. It was so lovely, so beautiful, so enchanting. You understand? Thought gives continuity to an incident of the sunset and wants it repeated. Yesterday, you had sexual pleasure. Don't be shy. Observe it. You had sexual pleasure that has been recorded, and thought goes over it, thinks about it, chooses the color, builds images, and thought says, I must have it again. So thought breeds fear, and thought gives continuity to pleasure. You understand? Not detachment from pleasure, not desirelessness at all, which are all such shoddy ways of looking at life. Because if you are seeking desirelessness as a way to truth, then you have a mind that is tortured. Fighting your own instincts, your own demands, your own longings. And so your mind becomes twisted. And a mind that is twisted, tortured, cannot possibly see what truth is. So, you see now that thought gives continuity and nourishment to fear. Thought sustains and gives a duration to pleasure. Right? Is that clear? Simple fact. Then one asks, what is the function of thought then? Thought breeds fear, and also because it sustains pleasure, in which there is invariably pain. You understand? It is pleasure and pain are the two sides of the same coin. And the division brought about between thought, between pleasure and pain, is the function of thought. You have understood? Thought divides pleasure and pain. Thought says, I must have this and avoid that. So we have now to ask a question, which is, what is the function of thought? Knowing that fear and pleasure are two sides of the coin. That you cannot possibly get rid of pleasure. Because the moment you see a lovely thing, there is pleasure. See a beautiful child, a beautiful woman, a beautiful line in the sky, the bird on the wing, a lovely thought, a subtlety. All that is immense delight. Like joy. Joy is not pleasure. But having experienced joy, thought reduces it to pleasure because it says, I must have it more. You have understood? So, what is the function of thought? What is thinking? Not what you are used to, thinking according to a pattern, thinking according to Shankara, Buddha, But what is thinking? Surely, thinking is the response of your collected experience, which is knowledge. Isn't it? If you had no knowledge at all, you couldn't think. If you had no knowledge of your name, of your house, of the direction, of language, you couldn't speak, it would be a state of amnesia. Right? So, thinking, please listen to this. Thinking is the response of collected memory. Both the particular human being and the collected human beings. That is memory, the tradition, the accumulated knowledge. The collected memory, from that every thought is a response. That's clear, isn't it?
The final extract in this episode is from the first talk in Ojai 1949 and is titled, Where There Is Love, There Is No Question of Attachment or Detachment.
It seems to me the movement of life is experienced in relationship to people and to ideas. To detach oneself from such stimulation is to live in a depressing vacuum. I need distractions to feel alive. Now, in this question is involved the whole problem of detachment and relationship. Now, why do we want to be detached? What is this instinct in most of us that wants to push away, that wants to be detached? It may be that to most of us, this idea of detachment has come into being because so many religions have talked about it. That you must be detached in order to find. That you must renounce. That you must give up. And then only will you find reality. And can you be detached in relationship? What do we mean by relationship? So we'll have to go into this question a little carefully. Now, why have we this instinctive response, this constant looking to detachment? The various religious teachers have said you must be detached. Why? First of all, the problem is why are we attached? Not how to be detached, but why is it that you are attached? Surely if you can find the answer to that, then there is no question of detachment, is there? Now why are we attached? Either to attractions, to sensations, to things of the mind or of the heart, and if we can find out why we are, then perhaps we'll find an answer, the right answer, not how to be detached. Why are you attached? And what would happen if you are not attached? If you are not attached to your particular name, property, position, to your, the whole thing that makes up you, your furniture, your your car, your characteristics, your idiosyncrasies, your virtues, your beliefs and your ideas, what would happen? You would find yourself, would you not, if you are not attached, as being nothing, wouldn't you? If you are not attached to your comforts, to your position, to your vanities, you would be suddenly lost, wouldn't you? So the fear of emptiness, the fear of being nothing, makes you attached to something. Whether it's a family, to a husband, wife, to a chair, to a car, it doesn't matter what it is, to the country. So the fear of being nothing makes one hold to something. And in the process of holding on to something, there is conflict, there is pain. Because what you hold is soon disintegrates. Your car, your position, your property, your husband. And through the process of holding, there is pain. And in order to avoid pain, we say we must be detached. You look into yourself and you will see this is so. Fear of loneliness, fear of being nothing, fear of emptiness makes us attached. ourselves to something, to a country, to an idea, to a god, to some organization, to a master, to a discipline, do what you will. And in the process of attachment there is pain. And to avoid that pain we try to cultivate detachment. And so we keep up this circle. Which is always painful, in which there is always a struggle. So why can't we be as nothing? Not merely on the verbal level, inwardly. Be anonymous, inwardly. Then there is no problem of attachment or detachment, is there? And in that state can there be relationship? That's the question I want to know. Because he says without relationship to people and to ideas, one lives in a depressing vacuum. Is that so? Is relationship a process of attachment? When you are attached to somebody, are you related to that person? When I'm attached to you, hold to you, possess you, am I related to you? You become a necessity to me. Because without you, I am lost. I am made uncomfortable. I feel miserable. I feel lonely. So you become a necessity. A useful thing. A thing to fill my emptiness. You are not important. What is important is that you fill my need. And is there any relationship between two people when you only act as a need, as a necessity, like a piece of furniture? Can one live, to put it differently, can one live without relationship? And is relationship merely a stimulation? Because without that, which you call distraction, you feel lost. You do not feel alive. That is, you treat relationship as a distraction, which makes you feel alive. That's what the questioner says. So can one live in the world without relationship? Obviously not. There is nothing that can live in isolation. I know most of us would like to live in isolation. But one cannot live in isolation. Therefore, relationship becomes merely a distraction, which makes you feel as though you are alive. Quarreling, having struggle, contention and so on with each other, gives one a sense of aliveness. And so the relationship becomes merely a distraction. And then the questioner says, without distractions, I feel I'm dead. Therefore, you use a relationship merely as a means of distraction. And distractions, whether a drink, whether going to cinemas, whether it is knowledge, any form of distraction obviously dulls the mind and heart, doesn't it? A dull mind and a dull heart, how can it have any relationship with another? It's only a sensitive mind, a heart that is awakened to affection, that can be related to something. So as long as we treat relationship as a distraction, then you are obviously living in a vacuum. Because you are frightened to go out of that state of distraction. And hence, you are concerned and are afraid of any kind of detachment, any kind of separation. Because relationship then is a distraction which makes you or keeps you alive. Whereas relationship, which is not a distraction, is really a state in which you are constantly in a process of understanding yourself in relation to something. That is, relationship is a process of self-revelation, not a distraction. And that self-revelation is very painful. Because in relationship, you soon find out yourself if you are open to discovery. But as most of us do not want to discover ourselves, as most of us would rather hide ourselves in relationship, then relationship becomes painful, from which you are trying to detach yourself. You see, relationship is not a stimulation. Why do you want to be stimulated in relationship? And when you do, all relationships, like all stimulation, becomes dull. Because I do not know if you have not noticed, any form of stimulation must eventually dull the mind and the sensitivity of the heart. So the question of detachment should never arise. Because it's only the man who possesses thinks of renouncing. But he never questions why he possesses. What is the background? What has made him possess? When he understands the process of possessing, then there is naturally freedom from possession, not the cultivation of the opposite as detachment. And relationship is only a stimulation, a distraction. So long as we are using another as a means of either self-gratification or as a necessity in order to escape from ourselves, you become very important. Because in myself I am very poor. In myself I am nothing and you are everything. Such a relationship is bound to be a conflict, a pain. And a thing that gives pain is no longer a distraction. Therefore we want to escape from that relationship, which we call detachment. So, as long as we use the mind in relationship, there can be no understanding of relationship. Because after all, it is the mind that makes us be detached. Where there is love, there is no question of attachment or detachment. The moment there is the cessation of that love, then the question of attachment and detachment begins. Love is not the product of thought. You cannot think about love. It's a state of being. And when the mind interferes by its calculations, by its jealousies, by its various cunning deceptions, then the problem of in relationship arises. And relationship has significance only when it is a process of revealing oneself. And in that process, if one continues deeply, and widely and extensively, then in that relationship there comes peace. Not the contention, not the antagonism between two people. And only in that quietness, in that relationship in which there is the fruition of self-knowledge, there is bliss.